Hi there, friends. Welcome. Come watch us cut our bus in half. So as you can see, this is still part of the prep to get ready for our roof raise, and that involves popping the trim pieces on the outside of the hat channels and the rub rail off. The rub rail needs to come off because when we apply the skins to seal the bus up after the roof is raised, we're going to need 4 inches of overlap over the top and the bottom. So the rub rail is going to have to come off regardless, but I needed to pop those 2 rivets down below at the bottom of the trim to make sure that it would come off. One tip that I cannot stress enough is to get a generator for your air compressor and all your other needs. To run this air hammer, I needed 90 psi plus more pressure in that tank, and it required to be plugged in at an outlet at the house. I couldn't run it off of an extension cord because it kept tripping the breaker. So this generator made it super easy to be able to just have it right next to me on site and pop rivets and wheel it around as I needed to. I really thought that the bus looked great with all the little doodles on it, bring some great energy into it. And then we take them right back out. There's 2 kinds of rivets that you can find on a school bus. These on the outside that I'm working on right here are called solid rivets, which means there's no punch on the inside. All of the rivets on the ceiling inside of the school bus were structural blind rivets, which you might know as pop rivets, which have the little hole in the center that you can punch out and then take the hammer and bust it from the side, and makes it a lot easier. These, as you can see, don't have those center punches, so I just have to take them right from the side, and you have to do it with a little bit of finesse and the right effort. Otherwise, you're just going to pound those solid rivets flat into the side of the bus.
All of these guys out. Not those. And these guys. Look at all this. Go on. Go on. Go on.
Here we are just making sure that the front cap of the bus is all freed up from where we're going to be raising it from. All the windows are obviously going to be cut in the center, but the nose of the bus, if you will, is just going to be scalped and lifted. So it took just freeing up all of the adhesive and making sure all of those rivets were actually punched through and weren't going to bind the bus up as we went forward. Here you can see on all the hat channels where we're going to be cutting dead center of the windows at 12 inches to make our raise happen. All of that paint has to be ground off so the welds are strong and you don't want to be breathing that shit in. The wiring harness took a whole lot of doing to get that off to make this roof raise happen. Honestly, Jordan, couldn't have done it without you, but it was really just going through and labeling all of the wires that we're going to be keeping and finding them all the way back at the electrical panel and chopping them. One thing I will say is that these buses come as a chassis to the manufacturer. So you have 2 fuse boxes, one that runs all of the electrical in the engine bay, and then another one that is going to run all of the accessories inside of the cab. So you just need to find that one. Here are the little dimensional steel pieces that are supporting the nose of the bus. So just take a Sawzall, cut them, and rip them out. Easy as that. If you're new to this and you're not familiar with this kind of work, when you're going to be making cuts on any of this steel, just buy the carbide blade. It's going to be more money, and if you're not familiar with the prices of those blades, it's going to shock you a little bit. Just get the carbide teeth blade. It will save you so much money from going and buying repeat shitty blades, and it's just what it's made for, and you'll be surprised at how long it lasts. Zach and Molly are making the jig for the hat channels that you attach on the outside of the bus to your 12-inch middle mark. And that jig has a cut perfectly made for the skill saw to fit in there, so you get a nice square cut. And we really appreciate your help, guys. Thank you. You get a good idea of how this jig is supposed to be set up, and then that skill saw just fits right up in there, makes the cut right through, and here you get to see it happen. This is how the jacks that will lift the roof itself get tacked on. Just quick little tacks, and you don't want to weld the whole fucking thing on there, because then it's going to be a pain in the ass for you to take off. Just enough tacks that it'll support the roof. There's enough tacks going around the support to be able to hold it in place and comfortably lift the roof. You have to understand a tack can hold 700 to 1,000 pounds of static weight, so put enough to be able to support the capacity you're lifting.
I am recording though, because I need a YouTube video for this.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I don't even know, but you can count. There's like not enough that it's going to be too much of a pain in the ass to take off, but enough that you can still count them. So make sure you put enough tacks in there. So you can see I have to take this nice carbide teeth blade on the buzzsaw and just shove it all the way back there, but it wasn't long enough to get all the way back there. Unfortunately, I had to take this grinder and kind of take a wedge out of her, you know, just to get more space to be able to get my girth of my buzzsaw all the way back there to finish the cut on the backside. And I had to do that on both sides. So unless you're properly prepared, you're gonna do some fucked up shit. And I didn't cut through the skin, but I did make a little bit more work for myself in the future. I wish I could put into words the orgasmic climax that was this point, where we were all ready to start raising the roof. When you do this, you need to go slow and look at all 4 points and make sure that you are not binding at any point. We, thankfully, only had one rivet all the way in the back that didn't even need to get busted off. It was just binding the two skins together, and I was able to not even have to plug in the air hammer. I was just take a regular carpentry punch and hit it with a hammer, and it came right out, and you watched the roof bounce upwards, and then it was just smooth sailing all the way from there. Make sure you walk around your bus as many times as you have to make sure you do not have any bind points, so that you just have smooth sailing when you're just cranking on the shaft.
Holy shit.
Go around with the tape measure as you're doing it and confirm that you have the proper height and that opposite corners aren't getting too far ahead of themselves. and creating problems.
That's right, everybody. Keep it twisting. Keep your twist twisting. Yup. This bus is raised. This bus is raised.
We bought our hat channel extensions from Skoolie.com, and they are 16 inches. They sell them at 12, 16, and 20 inches. If you haven't watched any of Chuck Cassidy's videos on a roof raise, I'm sure you have if you're already here, but you can learn so much about what you need to know for this whole process just watching those first few videos. Another thing we learned from Chuck was using ratchet straps to adjust the square of the roof. You have to make sure, because you're only supported on 4 separate points during your roof raise, that your finished square is nice and tidy. To help make sure that your hap channels are plumb during the welding process, in plenty of videos people use dimensional steel 2-inch by 2-inch and put it on the backside and use these C-clamps. However, I did not have those, so as you can tell, I just got some 4x4 pressure treated, and it ended up working great, although it did catch on fire a couple times. So just make sure you're blowing it off afterwards before you grab it. Yeah, you see? Just like that. We used the titanium unlimited 140 MIG welder from Harbor Freight. Had some doubts getting a welder from Harbor Freight, but it worked great as long as you take care of it. And we made sure to run it with CO2 to prevent porosity. If you don't know what that is, you should do your own little bit of digging before you start welding your hat channels. Or welding fuck all for that matter. One other quick trick, when you're adjusting the square of the roof, use C-clamps on the hat channels and pull from there to avoid bending the original hat channels. Thankfully, we had several regulators to work with because it just kept frosting like crazy, and we just kept swapping them out.
And then now they're welding.
Don't forget the little poof. So what happened here was I ended up welding a hat channel in past my jack, so when I tried to raise the roof with my jack for one of them in particular, I was kind of shit out of luck because I had welded something in. So I had to take a car jack and a 4x4 and do this. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail, so make sure you know what you're doing. Tanner, you're awesome. Thank you so much for your help. And also, in case you didn't notice, the 4x4 is on a different side here. The 4x4 really goes on whatever side you need to help make your hat channels plumb. Obviously, Tanner went and tacked these in, got them nice and stiff. Then we popped the 4x4 off and he finished wrapping the weld all the way around. So many tools were required in the demo of the bus. If you don't have any, you're going to be dropping a pretty penny to get everything from crowbars to hammers to air compressors to power tools. With the power tools, I am a huge fan of DeWalt. The battery system's awesome, and I've seen them get the shit kicked out of them on a job site, and they still run like a charm. This was just me hitting some of the welds with a disc to be able to grind them down a little bit, make them look a little bit cleaner, because we don't like shitty work. One thing that we did that I did not get on film was the extensions that we received from Skoolie.com come with about a 2-inch overlap that go on the top and the bottom of the hat channels when you weld them in. We went on the outside and hit tack welds for just some additional support, just to make them a little bit tighter. The roof raise was daunting as hell, so thanks to all the homies who were able to come and lay a hand on her during roof raise weekend. I have so many little tidbits about roof raises in my brain, so if you all have any questions, I'd love to answer them. Our next step is skinning the bus, which is riveting sheet metal onto the outsides to seal it in, followed by insulation, framing, and electrical. We will see you for all that. I love this bus. Thank you. Bye.